Okay.
And boom, we're on. So anybody watching this video,
Hey.
you got us mid-build there. So, but we're going to get into the C# repo here in just a minute.
Yeah, I was rebuilding the documentation site because I pushed some changes last week. We've made a bunch of changes to how the Killrvideo project works. And so I realized that we hadn't actually updated all of the docs to match what we had done. So yeah, okay, so it is running the build. So in a second here, we'll actually be able to see updated documentation.
So it did just take a minute or two to start, huh?
Yeah.
It was like the same thing, yeah. I've noticed that with Travis, too. It sometimes takes far longer than I would expect it to.
Oh, no, the Travis kicked off pretty fast. It was actually that I hadn't, I don't know how to say it. I hadn't done a push that worked in such a way that it was picked up by Travis.
Ah, okay.
So
Gotcha.
I did things in a different way. I had actually created a separate branch. But it doesn't look like I actually did it. Yeah, I guess I just didn't really deliver it the way I thought I did. So anyway, this build is running. It's regenerated documentation. That'll be updated. We can go look at it in a minute because I actually, here, I'll show you what it looks like right now. Okay, so the doc site looks like this. You can go into the docs and you can see the high-level architecture overview and see how it's got etcd and registrator and stuff built in here. We've removed that in the recent versions.
I like that lovely picture.
Yeah, this is a Cedric special.
That logo is to die for, too.
Yeah, well, that's good. That was a little contribution from you, I think.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, you know, it's, yeah, I think you can compare and contrast, like up here, the friendly
yeah
video. I think we should absolutely like do a compare and contrast. And this is more of like keeping in the name of Killrvideo, which sort of sounds like a slasher flick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just
well
posted to the chat that link
it
too.
kind of looks like it finished building. I wonder if how long it'll take to update.
That's a good question.
Okay, we'll come back in a second. It looks like the build finished. So, in any case, well, I want to see this. I want to see this updated architecture diagram. Okay, there's the old architecture diagram. I think I have the new one here. Oh, that's kind of an awful way to look at it, isn't it? Roll with it. There's no etcd here anymore. Everybody knows each other by well-known names like web and generator, and studio and backend.
That works.
Right, so that's how everybody locates each other. So we don't have a service discovery mechanism anymore. Except the thing is, oh, there we go, updated. All right, the doc site updated. Okay, I didn't break it. The Java and Python and Node implementations of the service layer, microservice tier, those have all been updated to reflect the lack of etcd-ness. Is that a word? Etcd-ness?
That's pretty good.
And now the C# is the only service, the implementation of the service tier that has not been updated yet to this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make those updates to Killrvideo C#, forked from the original excellent repo that we created. So like we're just going to get rolling with this.
Cool.
So That didn't take very long. That's good. It's there. It's down. It's there. Question number one for you.
Yeah.
When you're working with a C# project, do you prefer Visual Studio or VS Code? Because I tried it both ways when I was playing around with it.
Yeah.
I didn't get very far before the stream. I got to the point of loading up my project, and I had a way easier time doing it in Visual Studio than in VS Code, but this is not my comfort zone.
Yeah. Visual Studio is super powerful and very clearly built to do .NET stuff. However, I also haven't used Windows for a long time, so I don't have access to Visual Studio. I do use Visual Studio Code a little bit to do C#.
Yeah.
Especially if it's kind of more of a legacy .NET version that I have to do a weird build for or something like that. But since I'm doing most of my .NET dev on Linux or Mac these days, I tend to use JetBrains Writer because it gives me all of the autocomplete and IntelliSense, refactorings, refactor to class objects, move to file, all that type of functionality that I like in Visual Studio, but it gives it to me on any platform, so I can use it on Mac or Linux. So then all I got to do is install .NET Core and then run JetBrains Writer, and it takes care of most of that. I will say, though, that the weird discrepancies between using the CLI versus JetBrains Writer versus Visual Studio to create projects, they all create projects in slightly different ways depending on the versions, which can be super frustrating. They generally will open each other's projects, like if it's up-to-date .NET 2.2 or 3.0 stuff. But being that it's slightly different makes it super frustrating if you have any like dependency conflicts or something like that. The way it's written into one or the other types of dependency files can be frustrating. So with all of that said, I generally use JetBrains Writer.
So I don't have that. Is that a licensed tool?
You do, but you can get it for 30 days for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we may end up going down that road. Let me show you what I did with Visual Studio. I got the community edition of Visual Studio.
Yes.
So there's...
I keep forgetting that this exists for Mac.
Okay.
Partly because I
don't think that's going to work.
I have feelings about them naming it Visual Studio when it's really the old... It's the IDE that existed before Visual Studio, but they renamed it Visual Studio. But it does nothing like Visual Studio on Windows.
Okay, so I don't know if this was a good thing for me to do. It thought that it had a project, but then it didn't actually find the product. So
yeah, this is part of the issue of .NET world.
How did it know? Because I actually deleted the directory that had the project file in it, and now it thinks that it has a project. I'm not sure about that.
It should always have a master solution or master project that has all the projects in it. So if it didn't have one, most of these IDEs force build one and attempt to like determine what was in the project based on the folder structures and stuff and the files in the folder structures.
Okay, this actually looks correct. So this looks pretty much like what I was looking at last time. So I hadn't made any code changes. I was just at the point of trying to load up the project in the IDE. So I come in here and I'm already seeing 39 updates on packages.
That looks fun and exciting. we could so it all builds as is, right? It says packages restored successfully.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got the updates.
If I press run,
do it. It shouldn't do anything bad. Famous last words.
It's building. Yeah, it's building. So this is, keep in mind, Killrvideo C#. Last commit was on August 30, 2018. That's right. So we've been a little bit remiss in updating this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have two things. Conflicts between different versions of the same dependent assembly.
Oh, that's fun.
Please set the auto-generate binding redirects property to true in the project file. That's a pretty good message, although I'm not sure I know what it means.
Well, and it's just a warning at this point.
Oh, it's a warning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The thing below that, though.
I don't know why this is part of the build. I know what causes this. Could not copy the file .env because it was not found.
Isn't it right there in the root?
No, this is showing that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it's right. Oh, yeah.
Found not found. So the reason that it doesn't exist is, well, I guess we could look at it here. Here's the README. Does it not do that? Where did the README go?
Oh, it's probably... Is there like a show hidden files somewhere? This is another thing that the editors often do for .NET stuff, is they'll hide files they don't know what to do with.
Really? Why would I want to hide my...
That's a good question. Show her how fun it makes it. Yeah, Writer does that too. Like I have to show all the hidden files to actually see everything.
Interesting. Any friends out there that have insights? Let's know. Okay, so here I'm just going to Oh, that's right. It's the getting started page. Haha. That it tells you to go to. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that. Okay, so microservices here. Oh, wait. Docs. Here we go. Getting started with C#. Okay, there you go. So you have to run this setup Docker file. Which does a bunch of mumbo jumbo that...
Oh, Docker VM.
Yeah.
Ah.
So this script, these are part of the instructions that we're actually going to be redoing as part of this. But to run the C# version, it says clone the repo, then run setup docker.bat. That creates an .env file with some environment variables. We're actually going to be getting rid of most of those environment variables, but I'm going to have to figure out these build instructions and change them so that they're not dependent on this .env file.
Right.
So now it exists, and now it might actually run. I'm going to hit this button again and see if it actually runs. All right, I guess it's running.
Cool. So it just starts up the, what is it, like 4 or 5 containers?
Yeah, so what I didn't actually do is, yeah, that's right. What I'm supposed to do here is, I can't, this is still running. So this is not going to do anything yet. I guess I'll stop this. Okay, so I have nothing running in Docker right now. I'm pulling a DSE image.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder what version of DSE this is running off of. This is probably pretty old stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Okay, so here's the YAML. It's yeah, starting older versions of all of the infrastructure: web, generator, studio. Oh my goodness, that's right. Okay, so it's actually broken into 2 compose files. So the other one is in lib. This is just showing some of the ways that we used to set things up that are now kind of antiquated and not very usable.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had our Docker compose configuration broken across 2 files, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's not intuitive where the other piece is because it's buried way down in the subdirectory. Okay, so it's running DSE 6.0. So that's the image that it was taking forever to pull. So I'm going to run docker compose up-d. That'll bring up all of the surrounding pieces of the environment. That includes etcd. This is old infrastructure. etcd with registrator to perform our service discovery or service registry functionality. A DSE node, studio, generator, DSE config that loads the schema and the web application. So those are all up and running. So now if I come in and run this thing, if this thing has been left in a working state, then it should all just run and connect up. So let's see. It is connecting to etcd. And then after DSE is finished running, finished starting up, then the configuration container will find it, load up the schema, and then attempt 4 of 6. Wow. Okay, Kitematic here. So.
It broke. So the idea of what we need to update are the packages and then change it to the new deployment style. Will that leave most of these script files in place?
Well, that's part of what I want to get rid of as well.
Okay.
So let's see, is this DSE node up and running yet?
Because that should inherently fix some problems that I just noted, which is the create environment won't run on Linux on newer versions of Debian and Ubuntu because it doesn't have ifconfig. And it uses ifconfig to find, I guess, addresses and such.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be some stuff that, well, what I may want to do is just like go in here and tag with some to-dos even, just as a outlining what the work is.
Yeah.
As we kind of notice some things. So, okay, did I rerun? I'm going to rerun this guy. Yeah, it seems like DSE should be up. Isn't it still? Well, maybe not. It looks like it just finished creating the... Here, let's look at the DSE configuration. Oh, no, it's ensured the graph is created. That looks like it's up and running. Yeah, it doesn't even look like it's connecting properly. So it exited.
Reading node addresses from etcd.
Cannot connection to DSE after 6 attempts exiting. Just out of curiosity, I'm not going to dive too far down this hole, but okay, good. So we do have a.
Oh, the service.
We've hard coded in the previous configuration. We were actually hard coding to use this 10.0.75.1 as the IP address range of the deployed services. So if there's more .env. See this?
Oh yeah.
Killrvideo host IP and Docker IP is set to this, and then that's what everything is being advertised on. So 10.0.75.1. You look in here, Killrvideo services. DSE server.
8182. Sounds like a rock song from Rush.
DSE server 8182.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or a Van Halen, something like that. DSE server 9042. That's funny. I wonder if that's actually what I bet it's not finding an entry in etcd, because that doesn't sound like the right name of the resource. So I'm trying to figure out, my thought was I would just try to get it running as is, but it doesn't actually seem to run as is.
Yeah, it does
At least not the way I was expecting. Interesting. DSE server 8182. Okay, I'm just gonna go down and see what's here. Darn it. Yeah, so there's an actual IP address listed here. Oh, but we want 9042 because that's the actual Cassandra port.
Yeah.
That says. Yeah, so this says that there's a Cassandra server that you could find at 10.0.70.5.1 or port 9042. I can't really see from here. Does it say what it's looking for? Reading nodes. Yeah. Look up server. etcd service discovery.
Service discovery. Where is that? It's a hole.
Service name. Yeah. So I think the configuration, DSE, Bootstrap, DataStax Enterprise. Service discovery. Config keys. etcd, Cassandra key. Okay, yep. So, yeah, there is some weird configuration thing in here where that's what I thought. So, these C# services are trying to look up a service named Cassandra in etcd. And there is something else entirely being registered So like there is no, Cassandra is not, I don't think, being registered in here. Wait, maybe it is. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so, oh, look, no, it should be finding something. So I wonder why it isn't. It actually is, it should be finding that IP address and connecting to it. I'm not sure why it's not working, but I guess this is all code that we're going to rewrite anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, weird. So I'm just opening the code project with JetBrains Writer and looking at it in Visual Studio Code right now. And yeah, JetBrains Writer has to open it based on the solution file.
Okay.
That's located in the source directory, which makes it kind of odd for a C# project.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I see why we did it, because we had it like it's just mapped similar to like the Java and the other projects we have. But the IDE doesn't find it. It has to go find the solution file. And then I'll actually put it on I'm going to put it on the Twitch screen real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
And just show everybody. So there's what I get in Writer. And if I click on the show all the files button, it's offset by 1. So I'm not sure if it sees all of the folders and everything that it needs to. But all the projects are there. So just for quick reference. Now back to Jeff's screen.
Nice. Okay. So I'm just trying to list out things that we need to do to get this updated. Obviously, the new configuration is no longer going to use etcd.
Right.
Whole service discovery package. It might go away, or I don't know if we would hard code the names of some things that it needs to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure about that. That from a code perspective, that's mostly, and then any dependence on this Killrvideo Docker IP and Killrvideo host IP.
Yeah.
That's only used one place in the source, looks like. So that's at least good. Environment file source. Allow fallback. Oh, wow. This is interesting. Is this why it failed when I didn't have a .env file?
It could have, yeah. Because it says, return new configuration builder, add in memory. Environment file source.
This is really interesting. So this was actually set up as a coding project where you could run the services here in the IDE. You would run the supporting infrastructure in Docker containers, like everything else. The entire rest of Killrvideo would be running in Docker containers, and then you'd be running the services here in the IDE. And the same Docker env file that the application was, the Docker containers were depending on, the application was reading environment variables out of this as well.
Right.
And, okay. It seems a little unorthodox, I guess, because this is not conducive to running in Docker.
Yeah.
If you were, I don't see that any effort had been made to run this in Docker, by the way. So that's part of the tasking, actually. Yeah, there's no Docker file in here.
Right. There is
Yeah,
definitely
that's
not.
yet another thing.
Well, in 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 the defense of the time period,
Yeah.
way long time ago, .NET didn't really run in Docker that long ago. It's only a
Oh,
recent thing that really became feasible
okay.
because of the weird. Like I think we had some. I think Cedric fixed this like a year ago. Matter of fact, but there were some weird dependencies on the version of .NET that basically required us to have a Windows server somewhere, or or more specifically, the IIS server on Windows somewhere. And
Oh. Hmm.
I think it was like just 3 years ago that Microsoft really started kind of pushing their support, and then it was just like a year or two ago that it got to a point where you could even hopefully run Windows as a container. So that's probably why there's no intent here for it to have run in Docker. But we could change that now because we're in .NET Core, which
Yeah.
gives us that full cross-plat capability.
Okay. Got it. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing here. Let's see. Where
Yeah,
should I write this down? I don't know if I should maybe like make an issue and issues for this in Git on GitHub,
yeah.
or just take some notes in the README.
It appears we don't have issues listed on GitHub. Do do
Yeah.
we want to turn those on so we could list this?
For this repo, you mean?
Yeah. I didn't know if we maybe like we want to keep it under the parent one, but I don't know. It's always kind of nice to be able to link issue numbers and commits and stuff from the local repo.
Hmm. So can I do that here in the project settings?
Yeah, somewhere in there. And
Hmm.
at least I'll say at least the last time that I seem to remember looking.
That's weird.
And when you clicked on options, it was just like a short list of options, right? Yeah, there's the template thing, and then
Oh wait,
oh yeah,
wait,
there you
wait,
go.
wait, 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 wait.
Hey, there's sponsorships. we get we get sponsors paying us to support our killer videos.
Okay. New issue.
Cool. Um, one arbitrary thing. Actually, you know what? You add that one. I'm gonna add this other one.
Okay.
Just a little random one that I found.
Actually, I wonder if I wrote this down with the. Did I put that on my blog? Weird. Hmm. Maybe I guess I would have done somewhere else. There's one of the names.
Oh yeah.
Just write out myself a good recipe here for this issue. Maybe that's good enough for one example for right now. Okay, so I'm gonna create that issue. So which one did you create? Update README with license information to reflect 2019. That's good.
Yeah, and I got one more coming too. That's kind of.
What's the topic area?
Build.
Just so I don't create the same one.
It's a build, versioning and build stuff.
Okay. Does it have to do with updating packages?
Nope.
Okay.
It'll polymorphically inherit from that object context, though. Anybody that's not a huge OOP fan will probably just have screamed at me. What's the latest Mac OS version?
Mojave? Or do you mean like by number?
Mojave's good enough. That's what it was.
10.14.6?
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so I got that. We should build a Docker file for this, so that's some work. All right. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That's weird. It says there are 4 open and 0 closed, numbered 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right?
Where's issue number 1?
Maybe it's created and deleted or something?
I don't know. That's weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, maybe it was a cancel.
If you if you refresh, you'll see the one I just added to.
I did, yeah. Add builds for XPlat services execution. Okay. Oh,
And I think
yes.
it kind of folds into the container too. Like I wrote at the bottom, basically, if we figured out what we're going to containerize it with, we should just containerize it with that OS, like Alpine or something, and then just
Sure.
run with it.
Yeah, is that what we want to use?
I would think so. Something like that.
Should I edit this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was thinking like
Alpine.
Alpine, and then we'll add the .NET bits to it, and there's probably a .NET. Um, I'm gonna look on Docker Hub real quick. .NET thingy, because I bet there's an Alpine .NET image out there that's
Okay.
of
Yeah, yeah.
semi-reasonable size.
Okay. Got it. So I think job 1 here is not the Docker file stuff, because that comes downstream once we have this thing actually running, obviously.
Right.
We need some version of the source code running. So probably we need to start tackling the etcd removal. And I am not up on very well on all the libraries in here. I just know that we need to replace this etcd stuff, and then, oh boy, environment source. Need to kind of figure out all the places this is called from. And I don't know if we want to create a class which kind of represents the configuration. This is interesting. Okay. There's a command line arguments, which I'm not sure that we're doing anything with.
I just posted in the Twitch chat a link to the Docker Hub page where it has the official images for .NET Core and ASP.NET Core. So one of those we would do. We might even do like a two-phase build of the image, because then we can get just the image with just the pure simple runtime that we need, and then just our built binaries for the runtime. I don't know. I can definitely run with that more too.
Okay. So I feel like I've found the mother lode here. Host configuration factory.
Host configuration. Yeah.
Okay, and so it's got basically all of these configuration values that are represented in here in some way. And it looks like, if I understand what this Killrvideo configuration, it's a Killrvideo configuration namespace, and it's listing out configuration keys. So these are the names of all of the configurable, it's the name, they're like key value pairs, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is all it's defining as kind of like static variables, like all the keys. These are all the names of the configuration values that this program supports. Is this a typical .NET way of doing things? Idiomatic for...
I would say 50-50, because this is somewhat .NET-y in the sense that it has the constants declared in a static class, and then there's a factory being built.
Yeah.
From the context of someone building enterprise applications with enterprise design patterns. But there has been a number of additional things written about simplifying and reducing the amount of overhead that a pattern has in this.
Yeah. This does look a little bit, I'm not trying to be critical, but it does look a little bit more heavyweight.
Yeah. And it is pretty common to see pretty heavyweight stuff in enterprise applications.
Yeah.
Because you'd have this stuff, and then you'd have like something that would probably read in from a vault 500 additional parameters that the developer didn't even know about but had to take account of. And then you'd probably have like a whole bunch of folders with domain objects and all that kind of jazz.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so part of me is just trying to understand this code.
Yeah.
It's returning an I configuration.
Yeah, that part is the standard .NET way to deal with like environment variables, local config files, and that kind of stuff. It's kind of it tends to be somewhere between Java-ish and almost JSON-ish to some degree, because it will take in some pretty dynamic configuration, but usually it's looking for key pairs or key values, sticks them in a dictionary object usually, or something like that.
So this environment file source is apparently a thing.
Yeah.
That I guess must know to look for .env files on the path, because I don't see anywhere where it actually says what the file name is.
Yeah, because it says add that, right? And then below there's the other add memory option. This is mappings. Yeah, environment file provider mappings.
Huh.
It's a dictionary. And back in that other file that you were looking at.
Yeah.
So it says add that. And then, oh, so it's passing those two key values there as the, oh, it's passing those in as the, well, the keys, or is it doing some type of replacement on that uppercase variable?
No, I think it's
string.
It's an environment file source. Yeah, I don't actually know where that value. Oh, environment file provider. So that must be a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's this. Okay, here is this. This is an environment file. Oh, here we go. We found it. Okay. So this all needs to work in quite a different way.
Yeah. So XE path.
I guess. So one of the funny thing here is I don't know that I see anywhere. I see that we can get some of the values defined from this environment file.
Right.
Some of them are actually, looks like literally being defined here in memory, like the default values. I suppose there's something coming after this that will allow them to be overridden.
Yeah, link enabled, broadcast port, support, etcd port. Oh, there's the
add environment variables, Killrvideo.
There we go.
_ everything.
Yeah,
and or
command line. Yeah, that's a heck of a.
Wow, this is like a powerhouse of configurability.
Yep. That is C#.NET's trademark.
Okay. Okay, so just thinking this through. These are basically like default values.
Yeah. I don't know what
What's interesting is we have these config keys, right? That we have well-known names defined for some of our configuration values, and then some of them are just hard-coded here, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why some of it's done that way and some of it is not.
Well, that does seem weird because those config keys are just all those constant variables.
All those names up above.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So, and they're like,
right.
there
Why
are things
those?
in like a DSE namespace, DSE key space graph name, username, password, but then down here, DSE enabled.
Mm-hmm.
Whether to use
When
DSE implementations of services.
it's still a static string. I mean, they're functionally the same because they're the map to the other thing, but I don't
Yeah.
understand why some are put in as an object property of that static object config keys versus just written in as a magic string.
Just curious. Okay.
I
So
wonder if Cedric would know because I think he's worked on this part.
yeah, there's some, we can see some evidence of places that he's worked on this code. So I may bring him in as well, this conversation, but I think we can certainly begin to change some of this stuff up in terms of what is being loaded from the environment versus it's interesting. I wonder what that really means, add environment variables.
I guess that's the preface of the variable names. That would be my hunch. Like it needs to be
Does it
Killrvideo
remove them?
underscore.
Yeah, it's gonna add everything to the environment that begins with Killrvideo. But what value is it gonna be? Like literally,
Like how to reference it
Killrvideo
afterwards.
underscore. Yeah, the full name. I suppose that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is gonna have to be reworked. It's gonna be a little bit different. Something interesting though that I just saw, DSE enabled, which is, this says whether to use DSE implementations of services. We've just been talking about adding in feature flag to the Java implementation to swap out implementations so that if you run this against like a clustering constellation that does not yet have the search and graph workloads,
Right.
that it would swap. So this is effectively, it's not quite a feature flag, but it's a toggle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool that the C# code already has that.
Yeah.
So if the graph workload is not available on your cluster, it's not going to try to do that.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Okay, so I basically need to get all of the service. The very first thing is get all this, the service discovery to reference the correct, change the config values so that they actually represent the configurable things that we need. Change the code that uses those config values to do things right. Bypass this etcd stuff and probably delete it.
Sounds about right.
Then I have to rework the Docker files, the Docker compose files. I probably have to do all of that before it will actually run.
Mm-hmm. I would think so. Should we file an issue for those things to do those things too?
Well, let's look. Yeah, because we're running out of time here. Have we covered all the issues? I guess it depends on whether or not you think that. I think that the updating the configuration values is kind of part of this.
Yeah. I think we should make them all the same too. Like if we're going to do constants. Otherwise, declare them as static, or not static, but magic string mappings. One or the other. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all handled as part of that one issue.
I
More.
just I just happened to look and notice that part of your headphones are disappeared into the background.
Yeah, it is a little weird. I don't have a perfect green screen. I'll have to order that.
I'm surprised mine's actually working as well as it is. Zoom's green screen tech is pretty awesome. Because all my
Yes.
lights are on right now and it usually messes it up. Oh, the lights just went off. Still looks all
Yep.
right.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Okay. I feel like this is mostly this one that you created for the adding the builds.
Yeah.
Um, where will we run into that? Like, when is that a must-have? Is that a must-have before we can build the Docker file?
Um, well, it's kind of a. I think we should get the Docker file working first because it's going to dictate how we would build it on whatever platform you're trying to develop against it on.
Okay.
So I think we should get the Docker file deal working first,
Yeah.
or at least before that. I mean, we need to get some of the configuration stuff figured out so it will build. But then basically, like, we need to get the build working, then probably get etcd yanked out, and or then get the Docker file working.
The build does work in the sense that we were able to run the application. The application starts up, it compiles and starts up.
Well, wait a second. Did it, or did it take the old build? Oh, yeah, because it did the setup.
It
The
did.
setup built itself a file.
Yeah, it ran,
So
and then it
okay,
tried to find services in etcd, couldn't find what it was looking for,
right.
couldn't connect or something, and then crapped out.
Yeah, so I guess from a build perspective, the order it would need to be. We could start pulling the etcd stuff out now, and we could also do a build just to get the stuff, even as it is, working in the Docker file. Excuse me, and building appropriately cross-plat.
I have one other question for you.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we could work some of this independently in parallel a little bit. What about update packages in project?
So I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and if you want to assign them, that's fine. I'll go ahead and I'll knock out the license and start upgrading the packages. I'll check into like what's going to break, what's not going to break, and get some of those done.
Okay.
And because also some of that will be involved in making sure it works cross-plat. So I'll work on getting those updated and make sure that they will actually build regardless of what IDE or whatever you try to build it with. So that and the license I can go ahead and knock out. And then we can have, you wanted to do? We could do another session on Friday, was it?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, let's do that. And then what's the other thing?
So I'm gonna work on this one.
Yeah, and I think if we do those two things, and then we could get a Docker file built pretty easily, and once that's done, then we should be able to get it cross-plat running pretty easily, or at least figure out what our pain points are. And once the pain points are figured out, we can just like list them and knock them out real quick.
Okay, so let's leave this. The other one's unassigned right now.
That looks good.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Awesome. Got codes to do. Oh, we are at time too. Awesome. Well, hopefully that was insightful for us. We now know what we need to work on. So.
Yep.
Cool. And I'll also get us scheduled on the Twitch channel so that we have an event listed and stuff. And all that good jazz.
Oh,
so for the audience,
sounds good.
Cheerio.
All right. See ya.